You could argue about this all day long. You know, who's Barbara Bush's biological father? Is it Aleister Crowley? Yeah. Certainly looks like it.
Right. So, so what's this next clip? Is this Britney Spears again, or?
This is Britney Spears talking in a British accent.
You say welcome here. Where's the car? Why is his hand so long to get caught? Why didn't you pull it up there? It's too much. And the camera in your face, my God. Let him go, let him go, let him go. Where's the car? Put it back. I don't like it.
The suggestion is that basically when she's talking in this British accent, she doesn't actually know who Britney Spears is, and like this has been confirmed by various paparazzo and so doctors at Cedars-Sinai Hospital. What's interesting, I mean, this is an aside, but when these people get into trouble, they go off to rehab. Britney Spears went to Crossroads Rehab. Now, if you know about the story of Robert Johnson and such like that, you sort of understand the symbolism of the crossroads. I mean, this was actually named after, I think Eric Clapton was involved in it. But Lindsay Lohan went to the Wonderland Clinic. Now, if you understand Wonderland and understand that basically Alice in Wonderland programming and stuff for MK Ultra mind control, but also the Wonderland Gang. Now, the Wonderland Gang, it was basically culminated in a murder that involved John Holmes, the porn star. They were a child sex, pornography, prostitution and drugs ring that was basically had connections to American government and various other sort of sections, and expanded sort of, it was a huge operation that you know, again, you can research this Wonderland Gang, John Holmes murder. Like, look at that, okay, and you know, this symbolism creeps up again and again and again. Apparently Britney Spears, when she was actually in hospital, when she shaved her head, she wrote 666 on her forehead. She said, "I am the Antichrist," and she tried to kill herself. Now, again, speculation, but both Kathy O'Brien and Bryce Taylor have basically said that within these alter personalities, you'll have like a suicide program, or if you start to remember too much, or you start to try and break your programming, you'll have an alter that is self-destructive.
All right.
So it's possible.
So just show us here, Neil, what do you, why you've highlighted this clip.
Well, if you listen, they've actually on the screen they're showing it. All that speaking, this sort of cod British accent is Britney Spears, and it might be kind of laughable to us, you know, because obviously it's not a great British accent or whatever, but the point is that she doesn't break from it, like, and
is this when she keeps shouting things out?
Yeah, she and you know, she's using English inflections, like, can you show me where the loo is and stuff like that. I mean, yeah, she could be trying it on, she could be doing it just to entertain herself and stuff like that, but it has actually been confirmed by several psychiatrists that she's got personality disorders.
So let's just say that, let's just go down the premise that you know, when she's in this situation here, she's in this British personality.
Yeah.
Why would she be in that British personality at that point?
Who knows?
Not in another personality.
Well, who knows? Who knows what the triggers are? Like, right. I mean, this is the thing.
So there's
like,
triggers to switch them from one to another.
Well, I mean that's a fact. Basically, there's a declassified document talking about. This was actually talking about MK Ultra, and basically, it was saying that in the 1950s, they were hypnoprogramming 19-year-old girls, and that they could be triggered over the phone. They could be triggered like with a word, a phrase, a symbol, a card, a colour. In the Manchurian Candidate, the film, the trigger is a card. It's the Queen of Hearts and stuff like that.
Yes.
That, if you understand hypnosis, basically anything can be a post-hypnotic suggestion. One thing that's interesting, if you look at celebrities on the red carpet, look at the left hand and see the amount of celebrities that are doing this action. Okay, and what that is, it's a post-hypnotic suggestion where you've sort of taken through hypnosis, you made you feel ultra confident, and that's a trigger. And when you do that, your brain, your subconscious remembers those positive emotions, and so what that is, it's a confidence-boosting thing. So you sat there pressing on your button, filling yourself with confidence. And so these are established methods.
All right, Neil. Well, again, disturbing stuff, but we're going to go for another short break, and after the break we're going to come a little bit closer to home. Well, no, we'll talk about Montauk first, and then Project Mannequin. So stay tuned. Welcome back on board the Starship. I'm talking with Neil Sanders, who's been researching mind control programs. Now, you were just explaining before the break, Neil, about doing this with your fingers. You're saying that what certain...
Oh, it's post-hypnotic suggestion. Well, and this is a very, very simple sort of thing. If you're sort of lacking confidence, if you go, you know, I've got to make a public speech, I've got to, you know, anything like that, sing in front of a crowd, you'll be sort of hypnotised and made to feel very, very confident. You have all your sort of feelings of empowerment and esteem, and you'll lock that in. It's called anchoring. What you'll do, you'll anchor it into like you know, an action. Basically, so every time you do that, or whatever is the trigger...
Push your finger and thumb together.
Yeah, that'll be it, basically, or whatever it is. It could be scratching or anything. Like, when you do perform that action, it triggers those, subconsciously triggers those emotions. And, you know,
it makes you more confident or something like that.
Yeah, and this is like an established technique that's used by, you know, actors and things like that. You know, it's a very simple technique.
But interrupt you there. So, but you would have to have gone under some hypnosis beforehand in order for that thing to work. Is that...
Well, it really depends on the sort of skill of the hypnotist. 9 times out of 10, yes, although there is sort of a thing called waking hypnotism, which is basically implanting suggestions without you noticing. Right. I mean, to be quite honest, I mean, George Estabrooks, who's the sort of the main MK Ultra hypnotist and stuff like that, also one of the most respected hypnotists in the world, he went against the popular sort of misconception that you can't be hypnotised against your will, and basically says that's rubbish. The power of the hypnotist is ultimate. The only things that limit the power of the hypnotist are his own scruples and his own skill.
Right.
So,
all right then. Well, we're going to discuss another alleged project, which is Project Phoenix. Tell us about that.
Well, I mean, the alleged part, the Phoenix program is sort of a political assassination and psyop program that was originally carried out in Vietnam during the war, obviously, and the concept of it was to sort of have groups that would go in and assassinate people that maybe weren't like generals or whatever, but were seen as supporters of the Viet Cong, or could be politically influential and stuff like that. And the official story is that it was a very, very, very organised political, like deep undercover political assassination group. Right. However, like if you actually look at the sort of methods that they were using, what it was really there for was to terrorise populations, to basically cause the population to submit. Right. Now,
got an example of this?
One example of this was an interview with Dr. Alan Levin, Modern Medicine and Military Links. This is completely verbatim. So I volunteered for this Operation Phoenix, which was a psychological operation. It would make Charles Manson look like Abigail Van Buren. It was basically a psychological operation, and it was very well done. Americans have done it many times before, and in essence, we did it inadvertently in Libya. The theory is, you don't kill the leader, you kill his children, and you kill his family. Basically what I mean is you destroy the chief's family very ignominiously, and I mean ignominiously. I mean, Charles Manson would look like a sweetie compared to this stuff. So the guy comes back home, and he sees this mess, you know, his wife beheaded, her infant child stripped out of her abdomen and then beheaded and shoved back in, bleeding into her body. There'd be entrails hung from the rafter, and there'd be shit all over the walls, those kinds of things. And that's how we do it. And when that happens, these guys lose confidence in themselves. And the village loses confidence in these guys because they don't die, they don't become a martyr, and so the entire operation loses his fighting will. That's the American way. And that's a direct quote from Alan Levin. Who was involved in these programs.
And who did he work for? Was he?
Well, it's a CIA program. I mean, the thing
is, he was a CIA.
Well, I believe he was a doctor that was actually. He was a doctor that was actually used in.
A doctor.
Yeah, in these sort of things.
Of psychiatry, presumably.
Possibly.
Right.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, the thing is that basically, if you look at other incidents, the My Lai massacre, it has been alleged. Well, it was a Phoenix operation. It wasn't an assassination program. Basically, the sort of excuses, well, we were trying to assassinate a few guys, and all these civilians got in the way. It's not true. Basically, it was to terrorise the civilian population.
So they're using terrorism, basically.
Of course, they're using terrorism. Basically, another one that I've heard of is that they'd wait until all the men would leave the village. They'd go into the village. They'd find all the women and children. They'd behead them, and they'd set up a large dinner table in the middle of the village. They'd put all the women and children around this dinner table with their heads on plates facing them. And then they'd never, like, claim, basically, if you came home and found this, that's it, you're just traumatised forever. Yes, yes. And suddenly you don't feel like fighting anymore. Right. You know, and that's the
so
sort of...
these were methods which American intelligence was suggesting or actually
used?
No,